You guys have been doing really good at studying for trivia. Just want to let you know. Do you study Sunday school too? I guess this is a little bit of a different situation though, right? School, supposed to teach you first, but the recap's where it's supposed to stick. And I think when you hear it twice, for the second time, it's familiar to you, and you've had a week to kind of think about it here and there. So that's why I always do the recaps. So today we'll be recapping Proverbs 7. That way you get to hear the same chapter twice. So as always, he starts out saying the importance of it. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. So when you're going out, you just think of God's law. What does he want me to do here? What's the situation? Am I even allowed to do this? Always keep the thought in your eye on whatever you're looking at. Bind them upon thy fingers. Write them upon the table of thine heart. How many times have you seen on TV shows or cartoons, or maybe some of you have done this, you don't want to forget something. You remember it throughout the day, and you don't have a pen and paper or anything, you don't want to forget it. So they've said tie a string around your finger. So you'll look at that string and you'll remember that later on during the day. Bind them upon thy fingers. That's why a lot of people wear rings to show insignia of a club, to show insignia of marriage. Like, should I be doing this? Oh, no, wait, I'm married. Can't be doing that. The rings and stuff, right? So that they have a significance. They're not just to look flashy and gold and stuff. And write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman. That they may keep thee from the strange woman. Ooh, remember her from last week? Yep. From the stranger which flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I'll look through my casement, which is the window part of the window. A window is more so just the frame, the hole in it. The casement is what binds it in and what it is through it. And beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding. So beheld among the simple ones, that means that he was looking at a lot of people, more than just one. They were just out there. He called them simple ones in that they shouldn't have been out there in the first place, maybe, in the danger zone, you could call it. But he seen one that he knew was about to mess up. Have you ever looked at a crowd of people and you just see somebody like, that one's the one that's about to do something? That's kind of what he's doing here when he's looking out the window. Passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house, the dark alley. He went down the wrong road, the wrong path. Again, we don't have too many of these in America, especially around here, because it's just not really part of our cultures. A lot of our cities aren't that big compared to a lot of the other ones in the rest of the world, where they've had hundreds and hundreds of years. Their cities just kept growing. We haven't been around that long. So let's say Korea is the only example I have for this one in real life. There were certain roads, I remember I told you that you just weren't allowed to go down if you were an American soldier. Like, they had MPs guarding it. It was just off limits because there was this bad stuff and they just didn't even want to fool with it. So a lot of other countries around the world have it very openly. You're allowed to go down streets like this. The cops know they exist. The city knows they exist. They don't care because they make a little bit of money off of it. Tourism, I guess you could say. The wrong kind of tourism.
Hey, I hate to interrupt you, but where is underage prostitution legal at?
A lot of places.
What's a country that would be shocking to Christians if they knew? Underage.
So it's Israel is, I think 14 is the legal limit. Germany, it's 14, maybe 16 now. A lot of Europe, it's 16. And it happens here in America. It happens here a lot. But other countries are a lot worse for human trafficking. Like, America probably has its hand in every single bit of it, unfortunately. But when you actually see it, we don't really display it openly as much as we fund it in the shadows. So there are a lot of places you can go in. Well, like I said, I've seen in Korea, you can find these girls in these poor countries like the Philippines, mostly the Philippines, and other poor Asian countries, third world countries. And if they're a pretty young girl, they'll go up to them and be like, oh, you should be a model. Or if they're singing, they'll go to these singing events like, oh, you're a fantastic singer. You could be famous in this country. I'm actually an agent. They'll get the girls, they'll give them a little bit of money, get them singing, make a little record or some kind of contract. They'll fly them over to that country, then they'll take their IDs and their passports. And they won't give them back until the debt is paid. And to pay that debt, they get given to a older woman or I don't know what you call it, a mistress, I guess, the one that's in on it too, and she'll train them and abuse them until they break and start working for the place, and then you have to deal with it here. So they just work openly, and that's a big thing. Imagine if that was like your daughter or something. You thought she was going to be a singer in some country, and now you find out she's being sold into prostitution and human traffic like that. Why not do anything about it if you can go right up to the spot where it's happening? They're everywhere over in Korea and Europe and all these places. If one of those places like that happened in America, I would like to think we would close it down and, get to the bottom of it, but hard to say. In this case, though, I don't know if this woman was human trafficked. I don't think so, because her husband's out of town, so it's a different kind. This one's a little more difficult to deal with. You can be like, oh, I don't want to be involved in human trafficking and not go to those places. But this one, this is a little bit different because this isn't a human trafficked woman, I don't think. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark of night, so he didn't go in the daytime when everybody can see him. The guy went in the dark. And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of a harlot and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn, her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner. So she caught him, and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me. This day have I paid my vows. Which means she went to the temple, either got money or gave money and received their allotment of goods, like a little bit of food, a little bit of maybe clothing, spices, things like that. Therefore came I forth to meet thee diligently, to seek thy face, and I have found thee. So she comes up to the guy and she's like, look, I've got everything set up. I've been looking for you. And once I set everything up, I came out here and I found you. Do you think that is the only guy women like this say that to? No. But some people, like he discerned among the simple, this was just an easy target for the night. So very easily enticed by the woman to come in. I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt, which is probably silk, because that's where silk came from back in the day. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. So she goes out and finds this guy. Not only is she enticing him with her looks, with her speech, but she's kind of putting the image in his head. Look, everything's ready. It smells nice. It's cool looking in there with all these carved things. There's silk sheets. Imagine not ever wearing silk. We have it spoiled to death today with fabrics and everything we wear. Used to it was cotton and you had 2 shirts to pick from. Both of them weren't that comfortable to wear. So just silk back then was kind of like, wow, this is amazing. This is silk. Now all the women in here almost are wearing silk. So, but back then it was kind of dang, this is crazy. So she's just enticing him. More and more things. She's going after touch. She's going after smell. She's going after vision. All these different senses, which was kind of funny because we heard a sermon about senses last night. Me and Eric did. But she's covering all the bounds, all the senses that the guy can have. For the good man is not at home. He has gone a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. With her much fair speech she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips, she forced him. So maybe the guy didn't want to, but like I said, you girls, you have a superpower. If you really didn't want to, you wouldn't have been down that road in the first place. But it's the tale as old as time itself. It was the first kind of downfall of man was men falling to a woman, but a woman falling to Satan. So you can't really fault a whole lot of either of them there because there's some very powerful works that be. Same thing's happening again. We're being warned against it. Thousands of years later, we're reading about it to be warned again, even thousands, 3,000 of years later, whenever Proverbs was written. He goeth after her straightway as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for his life. How many of you guys ever seen a slaughterhouse? How they just the cows just walk right up to it. That's why they call them kind of dumb animals. The one just die right in front of the other ones, and the ones oh, they don't freak out or anything. They just, oh, I'm next, I guess, and keep going in there. I mean, never watched it.
I worked in one.
You worked in a slaughterhouse? Ooh. What was your job? To shoot them?
Nope.
Did you have to salt the hides?
No, I packed them.
Oh, you packed the hides or the cows?
The cow's feet, liver, anything.
Fun stuff, wasn't it? But a lot of these places, you're around a lot of death, so it's kind of like a gloomy sense. And that's why you go with after her as an ox, go to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks. In this case, it's just talking about the cows. This picture specifically, I didn't want to show the crazy part of this, but these cows were killed by one of the craziest machines I've ever seen. Me and Ezra were watching it one day. We just got a lot of animals, and we just ate a rabbit. We killed and cooked a rabbit over a fire. And he was like, how do you do that to a chicken? So I was like, well, let's watch how to skin and gut a chicken. He's like, do you do that to cows and sheep and goats too? I was like, yeah. We're just watching slaughterhouse video, and then this one Chinese one came up with this method. The same time, they both were like, whoa, oh my gosh. It's like, oh man, I shouldn't be letting you watch this, but I mean, I guess it's educational. It's not super bad. It's freaking me out too, don't worry. So, just as going as an ox goeth to the slaughter. You go to your own death. You're going to your own demise. Or as a fool to the correction of the stocks. You know what stocks are. I know a lot of you older adults do, but the kids, you ever seen the cartoons where like dude's head and his arms are in the thing, and then they close the wood on top of him so he can't pull his head and arms out, and people like throw fruit at him and all that stuff? Well, nobody wants to just go and give yourself to that. Like, if you want me to go in stocks, you're going to have to come get me. I'm not going to turn myself in. But, like he says, as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till the dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare, and knoweth not it is for his life. He was trapped. Hearken unto me now, therefore, O ye children, and attend to my words of my mouth. Let not thine heart decline to go her ways. Go not astray in her paths. Don't even be on the street. It's enough that you made it all the way to the bedroom that she enticed, but you shouldn't have been on the road. You shouldn't have been in the house. You shouldn't have been anywhere near that to avoid it. For she hath cast down many wounded, yea, many strong men have been slain by her. So this said it was the simple man, he discerned one out of it. But let's think of some non-simple men that this has happened to. Adam, maybe. I don't know that he was that simple. He was the first child of God. I don't really know how that would work in this case in his story. He's just, all he knew was just some animals and stuff. So he's the reason we all kind of fell for it, but maybe a little bit more forgivable than, let's say, Solomon. Solomon had all his wives, and then they started being like, well, I want to worship this God. I want to worship this God. Oh, okay. Like, you knew, God even warned you not to do that. You have no excuse to fall for that stuff. What about Samson? Delilah was always snitching on him, trying to get him in trouble, and yet he just kept going back, and then finally told her a secret. Then she made him go to sleep and held his head while they were cutting his hair. I don't know if she specifically held his head, but she caused him to get his hair cut off. King David, we just learned about in Bible school, how he had Uriah killed just so he can get Bathsheba. Girls have been taking down big, powerful dudes since the beginning of time, so many strong men have been slain by her. You know how you would avoid that? You stay away from it and avoid it altogether. How strong, how much more strong and much more powerful would Solomon, would David, would all these men be if they had just stuck with one wife and didn't even look at other women and went through it? And they'd still be, this would probably be like United States of Solomon or United States of David or something, the way it should have been. But no, they had to fall some way by disobeying God. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. So many times have strong men fell when they've been led down that road. Earlier in Proverbs it says you'll never return from it. You go down that road, that's it, you're stuck there. So you can't get out. Jesus came, kind of gave us some grace and a way out that you can turn your life around if you have this demon, if you are plagued with it. But for guys, man, this is one of the toughest ones, I bet. That was Proverbs 7. Moving on, Proverbs 8. A little bit of a different tone and pace here. Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of high places, by the way, in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. So again, as every chapter of Proverbs opens up, hey, pay attention. Hey, we're out here crying for you. We're at the voices. We're at the palace. Unto you men I call. My voice is to the sons of man. Hey, everybody, listen up. I got something important. O ye simple, understand wisdom. And ye fools, be ye of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. You don't have to worry about me lying to you, is what it's saying here. Just because you are simple, just because you are wise, I'm telling the truth that you can both agree with. And that's very important. Like, the truth is going to be true to the guy that doesn't know it's true as much as to the guy that does know it's true. Truth is truth. It is unchangeable. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. You don't want somebody lying to you. If there were lies scattered throughout the Bible, none of it would hold, because it would leave these huge festering gaps in it that, especially nowadays, would have just been exploited and blown all to pieces. People have tried. They've tried to say, well, this part of the Bible is wrong and this is wrong. Well, they say two different things here. These aren't really necessarily untrue things. If anything, it gives more account to the story in some sense, because if everybody in this room seen something, they would have a little different version of it, but the same exact event happened. It's not like they said Jesus did something totally different than he did before. They just put one part before the next sometimes. It's not exactly poking a hole in the Bible when you call that out. Oh, wow, so they mixed up the words a little bit. God, you really got us now. I guess throw the whole thing away. I don't know why people try to do that. But this is saying in Proverbs here, because I'm not going to lie to you, this helps everybody, from the simple to the kings. This is truth. Truth applies to everybody. For my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. I can't even lie to you because it's an abomination, because I am wisdom. You'll find out why here in a minute. It says something cool about wisdom that I didn't know. And wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness. There is nothing forward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge. How hard is it to find the truth nowadays? Especially on TV and YouTube and in newspapers and in everything else. They get you spinning. You're looking this way, hearing this thing. You're going around to where you don't even know what's true anymore. And kind of you don't even care, because it's just too confusing at this point. You kind of want to step back from all of it. The upside down. That's what we're living in. But if you don't know which way is up, you'll go whatever direction anybody will tell you if you hold down and stick to it. So you hear a bunch about fake news. You got your fact checkers. They said this. They said this. Well, this is kind of true, but not all the way, because we don't agree with it. The cycle continues. It's not a fact checker. You're cherry picking your facts, and then you're cherry picking your facts. It's not exactly checking it. Obama says that confirms that there are UFOs now. That's a big thing. You guys been watching the news? Can't believe it. It's like I'm watching WWE. It really is when you watch the news. It's like watching an entertainment wrestling or something. Like, what are we even talking about anymore? Of course there's been UFO. You know what UFO stands for?
God.
No. Well, no.
Aliens?
Aliens kind of, but the UFO just stands for unidentified flying object. Like there's not been hundreds of thousands of those for as long as people can remember. There's comets, asteroids, huge birds at some points. Especially now with planes and drones, and I can get a drone and fly it in my house like up to 3 miles away in any direction. So of course we've seen things in planes and stuff that we can't understand. Everybody, just like Chloe there, always associates that with aliens. So, Obama just confirmed aliens are real. No, he just admitted, like, it was never a secret in the first place. Sometimes you see things in planes that you can't identify, and it goes away too quick. But it's just another way to keep you spinning. You don't know what's going on in the world anymore. But there's one book, one news station, one channel, one truth that has been the same since it was written for thousands and thousands of years. It's not changed that much. Especially even the book that we use, it's like 600 years it hasn't changed. So the meanings are there. Here's the cool thing about Christians. I thought about this and it stuck out a little bit to me. So let's see, what's a good example? James, for example. He's been around a little bit longer than I have. Quite a bit, right? His grandpa's around a lot longer than him or me. I've been around longer than Ezra has. But if we both are Christians and really try to follow that book, you can go to any devout Christian throughout all of history and you have the same moral and ethic code. You're kind of the same person. You might look a little different, talk and act a little different, have a little different hobbies, but you will know that person from the truth that they stand on. How crazy is that? Cultures have changed, cities have changed, powers have changed hands hundreds and hundreds of times for over these thousands of years. But there is a constant mixed in with all that. There is something that hasn't changed since the beginning. That's a pretty cool thing to stand on. If you know this way is the true way, and you know it is the truth, and you can live it, you can meet up with anybody in history who lived it, and you can send whoever comes after you in that path to live it and be the exact same from that. But if you're not what you want to be in that path, that's the problem we have now, because you're not sending people out. You're sending them in a weaker version that you are. Just like if our grandparents were kind of Christians, taught us to kind of be Christians, we teach our kids to kind of be Christians. And we're in dangerous ground now because Christianity is getting watered down. It's getting very, very weakened because not enough of the truth is being spoken out of it. People want to twist the truth because it hurts them a little bit. Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not compared to it. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. All knowledge and wisdom comes from God. It's already said that. But we do have a little bit of a chart here that kind of explains the difference between them. I know it might be hard to read. But at your base you have data. Data is just something happened. This pencil fell maybe from like 2 inches. So just everything that's happened you can record it as data, or it just is data. And if you take enough of that, you can put together some information. Well, it fell because a hand picked it up and dropped it. Then you have knowledge. Why did it pick it up and drop it? And because I was showing you an example of the chart itself, so there's kind of some inception going on there. Then you have the wisdom is more the inside of it. And the insight comes to what was the purpose of that. And my purpose was to teach you guys the difference between them, and that is where the wisdom comes in, so you can take that and start applying it to other places. So they give it as data put into context turns into information. Information with meaning turns into knowledge. And knowledge with insight turns into wisdom. I thought that was a neat chart. I didn't know that existed. It's called a DIWK chart. DIWK. And there's a whole bunch of different examples, but that one was my favorite. Because if you use all this, and we all use it daily, whether you know it or not, you find out knowledge of witty inventions. Think of an hourglass. How do they know how much sand to put in it to make it an hour? You kind of get one go at this because hourglasses don't have really holes or plugs. But I'm sure they did back then in the original ones, so they could try it. And how do you base an hour? Like, what, you sit there and watch the sun? Has it been an hour yet? And you try to time the sand to end right there. Takes a lot of thought and things to go into this kind of stuff to make something just as simple as an hourglass to tell time. But that came from knowledge and it came from wisdom. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Pride and arrogancy and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate. So, not only everybody, all these Christians go around wanting to preach love. Jesus is only love and nothing else. And I think I kind of showed you a little bit different story in the Trivia Thursday. But it is not enough just to love God. You got to hate evil too. And if people hated evil a little bit more today, I think we'd be in a lot better path. That's the key ingredient that we're missing today is the hatred of evil. We got enough love that we're loving Things that we shouldn't be loving at this point, especially in the church. What we don't have, though, is a hatred of the evil that we're supposed to have. But God and Jesus don't hate. I just read a Bible where it says, fear the Lord and hate evil. So yeah, you don't think God hates stuff? God says he hates all kinds of things. You don't think Jesus is God? You think his opinions would be different than God the Father that sent him? No. Jesus isn't going to have a different opinion than God his Father, because they are one and the same in ideas and stuff like that. Fear the Lord is to hate evil. What else does it say about the fear of the Lord to back that up? And to man, this is from Job 28, he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. So if you have the fear of God, you're going to be wise enough to just not go down the street. You'll understand that that is not something you should do, and you will depart from evil. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments, because his praise endureth forever. So those commandments, same commandments. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instructions. That was from Proverbs. This is the very first chapter of Proverbs. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And then in Acts, take some New Testament. Then had the churches rest throughout all Judea and Galilee and Samaria, and were edified, and walking in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Ghost were multiplied. Not declining, not degrading. If you bring the fear back in, just like the apostles, then us as Christians can once again begin multiplying, growing in Christianity. I think that's a lot of the problem. Nobody wants to just go around loving things they don't like. And if you read in Christian books that you're not supposed to like that stuff, you're allowed to hate it. The Bible just said you can hate evil. That's perfectly okay. I want to go to a church where I'm allowed to hate evil, where I can hate some things, where I can have a Christian, I don't want to say Christian violence, but you know what I mean? If I say Christian violence, it's a Christian hatred of evil. Like, I do not like the evil things that are going on over here in this part. And now I'm allowed to hate that. I can't necessarily go kill or beat it all up, because Jesus said no, it's supposed to be doing that. But you can pray against it. You can say I hate it. You can not claim it. You can go against that. Perfectly allowed. Counsel is mine, and sound wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. By me kings reign, and princes decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. Think about kings. If you weren't a smart person or a wise person, you wouldn't be a king. No dummies ever just like tripped, fell, and landed on a throne. They kind of have to, kill and devise, plot, and scheme. But if you stick with God, you'll have a very clear and much more prominent reign than the other ones. This is another example for Solomon. He wanted wisdom. God gave it to him. He used it and climbed all the way to the top with it. Then we all know how that ended. So you have to keep wisdom, keep understanding. So it says to keep it a lot. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. So Gary was talking about this the other night in his puppet show. And he said, for the kids, if you seek them early, you will find them. It's very true. And also another way you could look at this as well. You don't necessarily that you're a kid. Let's say you're an adult. A situation comes up, like with the job, work, friends, family, something like that. And you say, what am I going to do? And you start plotting, you start scheming, you start thinking about, do I go to this place? Do I apply to this place? What do I do here? Seek me early and you'll find me. Stop and pray about it before you do any of that. Think about God before you do any of that. What would God have me do? What is the more Christian approach to this? What do I have research-wise to look up and help me? You have Proverbs. That's what this is for. And it teaches you, kind of gives you a moral compass to use to make these decisions. So in all choices, seek God early, and the other choices are going to be a lot easier to make, because they're going to line up with God. It'll fall along that line. Riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, yea, than fine gold, and my revenue than choice silver. I lead in the way of righteousness in the midst of the path of judgment, that I may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasure. Which is better, to receive $1 million or to learn how to make $1 million? If you learn how to make $1 million, you can make as many of those $1 million as you want. That's why people who win the lottery usually go down after they spend it all and make about what they made before they won the lottery. They just don't really know any further than that. I haven't thought about how to make more money from it. Think about fishing. Hunter likes fishing. Went last night, broke his glasses. But if somebody gave Hunter a fish, you've heard this parable before, like you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach Hunter to fish, you feed him for his life, because he now knows how to do that. This is all this is saying there. So let's talk about wisdom and where it came from. The Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way before his works of old. Wisdom was there from the beginning with Jesus, with God, before anything was even created. So wisdom, not necessarily a being like Jesus or God, but when you hear the word in the first of 1 John, talks about Logos. Like in the beginning, there was the Word, Logos, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Logic, order, reason, and wisdom was there with God, because that's what it was. I was set up from the everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was. When there was no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, wisdom was still there. Wisdom created the oceans. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest parts of the dust of the world. Wisdom predated the mountains, predated the valleys, predated the hills, predated deserts. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth. When all this was being created, it was out of God's wisdom. That is why it was always true, and it will always be true, because it just is. It's the only thing you say about wisdom. Wisdom just is the truth. It just is itself. It's always been the truth, and it can't change, because that's what happened. When he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the fountains of the deep, when he gave to the sea his decree that the waters should not pass his commandment, when he appointed the foundations of the earth, wisdom was there at the creation. Then I was by him, as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight. God loved wisdom, even from the beginning, when he made the earth, made all the life, made all the animals and trees, and it worked. God loved it. He was like, look at all this order and this life abounding abundantly, rejoicing in the habitable part of his earth. And my delights were with the sons of men. Look at them, doing what God wanted them to do. Not all of them, but for the most part, they were doing the plan and the purpose that God put them there and intended them for. Now therefore hearken unto me, O ye children, for blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that heareth me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors, always hearing and ready for knowledge and wisdom. For whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. You gotta find God to find life and obtain favor. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. So now we're talking about, you've heard before saying that lust has destroyed his own soul, but not seeking wisdom, not loving wisdom, not hearing counsel, sinneth and wrongeth against your own soul. And all they that hate me, all those that hate wisdom, that just don't want to learn, that just don't care. Where did wisdom come from again? When did it start? With God before the earth. So if you hate wisdom that was there with God before the earth, you hate God. You don't like God. You don't like the wisdom. You don't like any of that. All they that love me love death. It's okay to not be afraid of death, but you shouldn't love it. You shouldn't just embrace it and welcome it with open arms. You're allowed to fight back against death. That's perfectly okay. But when it comes, be ready for it. Don't be one that hateth wisdom. Don't be one that hated knowledge. Be one that loved it, so you didn't wrong your own soul. And you can be up there with the Creator, with wisdom, when all this was happening. Proverbs 8. Thank you. Sorry for going a little bit long, but we started a little bit late.